we are moved on to our strategic plan, item number 4, economic awareness. And so we wanted to create a housing/rental plan, start projects surrounding schools, mills, health professionals, or like start a project or start identifying how we could get some housing for schools, workers in schools, mills, health professionals, etc., I think is what we were looking at there. Yeah, so and I know that's a big issue, and I've heard it from a lot of our business community, that having people finding a place to rent is an issue. Not necessarily buy, but I think rental is the biggest issue for people. So yeah, there's where we're at with that, and I think it's still something that we need to work on, but I know we didn't really, we wanted to identify somebody, get them up here to really see if we could get them. I know I reached out to the one company in Barrhead that was quite interested, and then he kind of fell off the map, and I have to say, I did follow up with him after getting back from Europe there, was because he was going to come down. He never did. I didn't follow up with him, but it's something that could, find out what happened. Is he still interested in coming down and get started on that, so that, by next spring, he'd be ready to go again, maybe. Was there any other developers that have expressed interest that you've heard of, or nobody's come down? And I know it's tough because they've got, everybody's screaming for the same thing, so they can go anywhere they want and put in projects, and they're gonna go where they think they can make the most money and have the easiest time of it. So that's a tough one to sell. Go ahead.
So 2 kind of aside things. One, was that lady looking for a 3-bedroom with a nurse that's coming in here to do her, or what position I think it was?
It was a position.
Position, sorry, Shauna Wallbank sent it, right?
Yeah.
Do we help, can we help, is there anything?
I've been looking around, I have not found anything, I don't know if anybody else has, but.
Do you ladies know if there's any accommodations? No? Okay. Secondly, do we know any new updates on development at the hospital land? Like, do we know, has anyone applied for development permit? It's still a mystery.
It's still a mystery. Yeah, somebody knows what's planned there, it's just not us.
No, I've seen that email too, but yeah, I put some thought to it, and I kind of explored around a bit. It's, yeah.
And how short term was it, 6 months or how
3
short?
months.
3 months.
And the word that, I was a little more excited when I read the email because I saw that it was a female physician.
But not for us, but she's
And it's not for us, like I asked that, I said, are they be stationed here? And she said, no, they're going back, but, which is disappointing. I mean, the good news is we'd have some additional coverage for 3 months, but the bad news is they would be leaving after that point in time. Yeah.
I mean, so when do we do that? We do not have to do assessment where we want to do post it.
And so, yeah, other people have come here from other communities, so it's fair game, but man, it's tough to find a spot for them, and if there is something available. All right, so just increase of the housing, I think we still, in my opinion, still need to be proactive and try to recruit somebody here. And again, it's that capacity issue, right? It's trying to find the time to commit to really recruiting and trying to get somebody here. So that is one issue, but we gotta keep focusing on it and if there's an opportunity, try to sell a developer. Prepare a community profile for the website. That was provided to the Rural Health Professionals Action Plan Manager. They will draft a design pamphlet. Any update on that?
No, I'll follow up on that, but I haven't chatted with them for a while.
Okay. And then we've got explore highway commercial potential listed with real estate marketing, explore with RIA. So we're sort of exploring with the RIA, with the Growth Alberta. The CAO is preparing a list of surplus properties, will be posted by late April, early May. It's still on, hasn't been posted yet, but will be, is that correct?
Right. So just for council's information,
So Claudia can hear you.
just for council's information, we do have a policy on this. I'll be asking council to delete that policy and make it compliant with the MGA. So right now, our policy says any surplus land should be advertised at the assessed value plus 10%. In a lot of cases, the assessed value is way below market value, so I would suggest to council that council continue that policy. I spoke to two of the real estate agents in town and they concurred with that is not in the best interest of the town. So the MGA specifically talks about market value. It does not talk about assessment value when it comes to disposing of surplus property that may be owned by municipalities. So that policy right away is, in my opinion, in violation of the MGA. But that's a policy that, again, is like 20 years old or however old it is. So we will be putting them on, and it's sort of an interesting discussion because the real estate people say, person A comes in saying they want to use assessed value when the market price is higher, and vice versa, when the assessment is higher, they want to pay market. Right, so we'll just be advertising the properties as available, and then we'll go through that process. If they're interested, here's the market value, estimated market value, and that's what you can buy it for.
Yeah.
And again, market value, if there's, just like an assessor, if assessor comes on your property and you've got I would say deficiencies, the word I'm looking for is escaping me, but if you've got, a lot may be worth 20,000, but if the site's contaminated and it's gonna cost 18,000 to remunerate that, rehabilitate that site, the real market value, no one's gonna pay more than 2,000 if they have to put in a large investment to make it developable. So that's why market value is the way to go. In some cases, market value is way above assessment value, and I'll use the hospital lands as an example. It's assessed at 550,000. Well, the market said we're going to pay roughly 1.8 million for it. So if the town had acquired that site and attempted to flip it, which the government wouldn't allow us to do anyways, if the council had to take ownership of the land, there would have been stipulations that it must be used for municipal purposes. So the reselling it and all that stuff that's up there in the community, that would have been possible anyways. The agreement would have been very specific, but here's a case, if we follow that policy, the town would be out $1 million, right? So anyways, we'll post it, the information will be there. It's kind of interesting because I'll provide that listing to council because there are one or two other large parcels of land. There's been a lot of focus on the hospital lands, but there's other large parcels of land in town that are sitting there.
how do we come up with market value if somebody's interested? What's the plan for that?
Two of the surplus sites are, I'll call them surplus sites for lack of better terms, is the old Jones Restore Center. And there was an evaluation done on that site, so we do have an evaluation of what's market for that site. But, you know, the typical thing is you say based on square footage of a residential lot, they're going for this range. So that would be a good proxy for market value.
So you get those numbers from the local realtors and say, hey, what's the market value on this? And
To be 100% in compliance, I would just get an appraiser to give us appraisals for each of those parcels.
But appraisals are only good for a short period of time too, or I guess roughly it would carry over for a while.
Yeah, you know, again, we get annual updates from the assessor that says what the change in market has been, and we can index them to that report. But it would be probably prudent to get them all appraised by an independent appraiser. We wouldn't disclose that information, but that would be the reserve bid price, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one?
I guess just that, you know, I know it was a little while ago now, but, you know, in speaking with, listening to developers and that, and, yeah, I mean, there's, you know, you look at the cities, Edmonton's really growing and expanding, and it's, so there's a lot out there right now, for sure, so it's, yeah, to entice, developers to come to the smaller centers when, you know, what they could be doing, so in the big cities, it's which is a good thing in a way, I guess, because, you know, the province is booming and growing in the big cities. But yeah, it's limits when, you know, for the little bit smaller communities at times, depending, but.
All right, so that's economic awareness. Any other changes or questions on that before we move on? Okay, I know those were the ones that we had prioritized last time. The other areas, we kept them on the list, but they were a lower priority, and we wanted to focus on our top 4 priorities as being the key issues. So I'm just going to quickly go through, is there anything you guys wanted to ask about or do with item priority 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10? Any questions or comments that you'd like to make on those?
Just for the
Yeah.
committee's information, sorry, on number 9, where it says also requested, that line should have been moved down, but what should be in there is also requested updates on body cams and funding model related to policing.
Okay. Any updates from Canadian Fiber? No. Okay. All right, any other questions, comments on those ones?
The only thing there's not an update, but we will be requesting Canadian Fiber to come in and optimize some of our locations, so the campground still hasn't been hooked up and the like. As the mayor mentioned, we need to optimize the arena, the whole arena complex. And we're need to still optimize some of the services for this town hall facility. So the fiber's in, but you know, we can get better bandwidth and the like by doing some optimization projects. So they're extremely busy in other communities, so they're a bit behind in that request.
Okay, so before we we've gone through, this is the strategic priorities, do we want to, oh, go ahead.
Sure, just look at number 6, and maybe number 6 dovetails or marries with the fact that, you know, we're talking about a scope here for our communications person, and that's about, number 6 is about image enhancement. Would those two in any way sort of, come together?
I think so.
Okay, so do we want to eliminate number 6 and put it as a subset of number 3 or whatever it was?
Well, I think there's, I don't, I'll leave that up for council to decide. I think the community image could be a little bit broader than just that, the communication strategy. That's a very small thing when we're looking at, hosting crime prevention interaction, working group, that kind of thing. Oh, and we've got the website there that's tied into the same thing. So maybe we could delete number 6 because we're kind of dealing with that. But it's in one specific issue. It's not in my view, the bigger thing, right? Like community image is more than just communicating. But I think there's things that we might want to do, like, maybe more green space or there's all kinds of other things that go into community image other than just the promotions in my mind, or just the clarification on communications. But we can decide if we want to keep it or not. This is what we're here to decide. Do we want to drop it or leave it for now?
No, we have to stop the meeting because we don't have quorum.
Oh, right. All right. Okay, well, we'll just wait a second. But while we're waiting, what are your thoughts on this one? Do we want to keep 6?
We should stop the meeting.
Well, just as a general discussion, right? What are your thinking?
Well, just have some
Yeah.
current themes, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we must delete it, I'm just saying.
My opinion is to leave it for now and then look at it at our next update. It's a low priority, not something that we're working directly on. Same with all of the other ones, but we're still on there for now. So while we're waiting, my question was going to be, do we need a motion to take our updated priorities to council to approve? I guess because we have this, we've made a few changes. How do we deal with
I think that would be advisable, and I'll redraft it and put the sort of new changes in a different coloring, so that all the new stuff will be in red, and that's
that? Oh, okay.
what the outcome of this meeting was. So I recommended to council that the amendments as indicated in the document attached be confirmed
Okay.
or amended.
Okay, no, that sounds good. So we'll make the motion that the committee as a whole recommends that we take the updated strategic priorities to council. All right, all in favor? Carried. Moving on then, now to item 4, the community energy funds from ATCO. We have this, there's some potential funds available.
So this was the gentleman, remember that email that was sent when Judy and I went to APCO effects, and maybe wrote us back, and this is the gentleman, Sean Hines, that she mentioned, who wanted to come and kind of do a little brief intro, say hello. She was out of Slave Lake, I don't know where this guy's at. But, this is him.
So I guess right now, what, I think this specific one is, do we want to make any applications on behalf of the town for the Community Energy Fund? And I know we had the one suggestion from Councilor Wakel that maybe we could apply to do some energy upgrades to the Moose Juice building, specifically on the second floor, because currently the museum did a bunch of updates and got a grant for that. And that's very green, I guess, that you could use, but the upstairs is not. So I thought that was a good suggestion, but I don't know if there's any other one.
I could make a suggestion to the committee that perhaps we can respond to this saying we'd be keenly interested in having you undertake energy efficiency audits for all our facilities and come inviting the council.
So, yeah, one is to do an audit, that's another potential one, yeah. If they would do that. So, I guess, so we've got two possible uses of this funding. One is to specifically go after the Moose Juice building, second floor. The other one is to do a generic audit on the town facilities and look for other savings.
Sorry, Bill, do we know of any that are in lesser condition than the upstairs Moose Juice? Because we may as well go to Warsaw first, right? Would you just want to?
Yeah, there's lots of organizations that will come in and do this assessment. So basically what they're doing is upfronting the cost, and then you repay them through your energy savings based on the assessment report. This one is probably a bit more targeted to specific retrofit projects, but it's a combination of both. And I don't know which of our facilities have had energy audits done, but part of it is not only the energy audits, is for instance the furnaces at the arena. Those furnaces are 25 years old. There obviously is savings by getting newer things in. So the same case may be with a lot of our old pumps and all that. So the point that what needs to be undertaken before I can answer your question is where are we spending our energy money currently, and could we target some of those to be upgraded, whether it's through this program or just through a general program. So for instance, you'll see the 5-year capital plan, there's numerous facilities that have window replacements being requested. Well, that's a potential big energy saver if we got crappy windows in our facilities, so it's those easy pick things,
But $15,000 doesn't go a long ways.
No, not under this program, that's what I'm saying, but there may be.
But the federal government has lots of other grants to get those. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting them to do some of those other ones.
Right, so FCM has a green energy program too, and it's like, so there's opportunities out there, it's just a matter of, this is another project, and
It's more work, right?
so again, like, I basically have tasked firm just to concentrate on the utility side of things, because we got the water upgrade, we've got, two major projects there, we've got the drought resistant stuff, and, that's what you're tasked to do for the next month or two, because, and rightly so, we need to get stuff back to council. an action, so, we can put it on the list. And, we need a strategy, that's what I'm saying. All these one-offs are there, but I don't even know, like I'm saying, repeating myself, if this building has had an energy retrofit, if those are LED, are these the most current LED lights?
They are not, I can tell you that.
Right, so there's simple things like you just do a walkabout and like LED lighting retrofits, like those type of big initiatives. I'd be very interested in that, so, I don't even know what our street lights are they high sodium or are they LED?
No, they're LED now.
Right, so that conversion was done probably under their program.
Yeah.
But there's other potential sites like lighting elsewhere in the community, whether it's in the arena or any of the facilities, right?
The recreation areas have gone through those, they've been updated or greened up with the energy efficient lights for the most part, not that that's all done, but those have been done over the years, I know that, like all of the lighting in the arenas has been changed. And in the pool, they changed all of that. But I know, this building, the upstairs of the Moose Toos, we could talk about the museum, we could talk about the public works buildings. I know none of those have been done either, right? And for 15,000, I don't know, I was just thinking, or what James was saying, okay, let's target this building or target one building and see if we can get that knocked off. I think there might be money to do the energy audits through the federal government, or through FCM. That might come in and do those energy audits, and then we can decide what we'd like to knock off. But I agree with you, we do need the whole energy audit on the bigger side. It's whether we want to use this money or try to recoup it from another fund to get the energy audit done.
James had the idea of the thing, but I never thought of the furnaces at the arena. I mean, if they qualify, I would like to apply with this grant for greening of those furnaces at the arena.
Didn't they say you applied on the grant for the
Yep.
arena ones? Yeah. And they're more money than the 15,000, but we could maybe put it towards that. So what do we want to do with this one? Got lots of ideas. We could ask maybe to put it towards those, like you say, the furnaces in the arena. We've got this building, Moose Toos building, getting an energy audit done for the town. Lots of ideas. We limited manpower to work on all of it. What would you recommend, Bill? What do
I'd recommend that the committee recommend the council that administration submit an application under this program. We'll just do an application based on, I haven't had a chance to look at what the 2023 recipients were, but that may give an indication of what they're really looking for in terms of projects. And then based on that, we'll come up with something to submit.
Okay. Agree with that.
You kind of told June to submit anyway, so. Let's do that.
Okay. So
We can get back to council with the recommendation.
Yeah. The committee of the whole is recommending that we take this to council to direct administration to apply for a grant under this program. All in favor? Carried. Moving on then to our purchasing policy. 5.1, which was 3.1, so it's at the start of your package. And I'm gonna turn this over to Bill to talk us through it, and then we can give some more feedback.
Yes, through the chair again, this is, when it comes to policy, there's actually an upcoming seminar that Municipal Affairs is doing that talks about policy, procedures, and directives, and what does they all mean? You know, so if it's a policy, it should be adopted by council. Let's leave it at that, but purchasing is always a hotspot in any community. So the way this has been drafted is, there's a lot of stuff in here that I normally wouldn't put in a policy, but it's, in the case of purchasing, it involves public money and all that, it's better to be a bit more descriptive of the processes and the ins and outs. Because this is always an area that is not well understood by necessarily the vendors and or internal staff. So this is fairly extensive from a policy perspective. And it outlines basically a bunch of legal definitions. You know, again, I'm plagiarizing from my own work. So I have provided this to other municipalities. It's all been vetted through lawyers and the like, so no sense recreating the wheel. But let's just look at this page here, and it outlines the methods of purchasing. So basically, here's are the game rules. If it's within these dollar ranges, in these financial limits, this is the process.
What page, Bill? Just
Page
six?
six.
Okay.
So that chart that's has a header in green. Here's what you want to buy, here's the dollar amount. Now here's the purchasing methodology that you must use. A lot of this stuff is technical in nature, but it all has legal definitions when you're dealing with vendors. What's a quotation, what's a tender, what's a RFP, what's a request for, request for options, there's all kinds of formal purchasing terms, and this document basically says, if you want to buy something within this dollar limit, you got to use this process. So everyone and all the managers are using the same process. That chart also says who has authority to do what. It has to be sort of fine-tuned a bit, but I just wanted to get a draft for discussion. One of the biggest changes that's happened in the purchasing world is gone are the days where you issue a tender that's purely based on cost. So generally when you issue a tender, you issue the tender for a road, and you say, we want this quality of asphalt, this number of inches thick, and give us a unit cost, and they provide a unit cost. The difficulty with that in the past is you might be dealing with a contractor who's crap. So even though you may have the lowest unit cost, you're not going to get the best value. So this builds in all those protections for the town. So it builds in protections that it's not only cost, it's total considerations and evaluations will be based on multiple things. Probably, or maybe not, there are specific trade agreements that the town is subject to. Canadian Free Trade Agreement and New West Partnership are the two biggest ones. There's specific regulations in there that does not allow any local preferences to be given. So I know council's had feedback from ratepayers saying, why wasn't this 52nd Street given to some of our local, why wasn't there local preferences? Well, you're not allowed to give local preferences because it would be in violation of these agreements that all municipalities must comply with. So there's a bit of education there and the like, but it basically outlines some of the differences. Like if you look at low value purchases versus higher value purchase. If you go to page 9, we have what's called standing agreements, and And this gets back to a question is, what type of things should we tender like every 5 years? You know, our audit services, our banking services, our planning service, assessment services. You know, those type of things you don't want to do on an annual basis, because some of these items are ongoing in the nature. If we change lawyers every year, we may be transferring files to and from lawyers, and that's going to drive up costs. So those are the type of things that we generally tender, request RFPs, for, and you enter an agreement, you know, generally in the 3 to 5 year range at a minimum. There may be options to renew, but that's it. So some of the stuff that we currently don't do is pre-qualify, especially when it comes to engineers. We have an engineering firm on record, which is MPE, but we basically give everything to MPE, even though it may not be a project. We may want to have 2 or 3 firms that are generic, and if we have a low value item, like can you help us out developing a policy on asset management, we could pick anyone that we've pre-qualified. So that's the advantage of that. Again, request for proposals that basically outlines where it's going to be advertised, the dollar value of the contracts and all that. So you go from that chart, and each of the sections in this policy are to support that initial chart. Deals with emergency purchasing, which is also dealt with in the CO bylaw, sole purchases. In some cases, we can't not get away with sole sourcing some goods or services, but it mainly applies to goods. So if we've got, in the case of the fire department, this supplier's air pack, and we need to change valves, generally that manufacturer insists that you use their valves, otherwise the warranty is invalid for the pieces of equipment. So that's an example of where we would not go to market, we would sole source because of those specific restrictions. More importantly, there's on item 7 in the policy, it deals with bid irregularities, which we don't have anything documented anywhere what would be considered a bid irregularity. Same thing with number 8. We don't have anything on file currently dealing with supplier performance. So generally, if you're dealing with a vendor that is threatening to sue you all the time, you don't want to deal with them. So that supplier performance sets out sort of the guidelines of how we would disqualify certain vendors from doing business with the town. And that's it in a nutshell, except one other item which I was hoping to get some direction today. So you see Schedule A also says, here's purchasing exemptions. You know, if it's a training and education thing, well, you're not going to go out and get bids. If it's, you know, if the Red Cross is hosting this and they're the only supplier, we can register with them. We cannot send out anything to the market saying, we'd like you to put on the same thing as FCM is doing and give us a price on it. Like we're going to FCM, that's, you know, it's those type of things that are, that, you know, there's no legitimate way to provide openness to acquire those goods or services. Like, if we want to buy postage stamps, we got to buy them from Canada Post, you know. So the bid irregularities, again, Schedule B says, here's what happens if a bid comes in, and all these sort of standard irregularities are noted there, and here's the response the town would have to any of those bid irregularities. The one item that I haven't put in the policy yet is you're allowed to have local preferences, but you must have a policy. We don't have a policy. But I have 2 policies here from other municipalities, neighboring municipalities. One's Slave Lake. And to give you a flavor, if council wants to have a local preference, that's fine. But council must be aware that there's a cost of doing that. So at the end of the day, how much I'd be willing to impose additional costs on the ratepayers to potentially have business, more business happening in town. So what do I mean by that? Let me just find it here. And this is Slave Lake. Okay. So their local preferences, they say if the cost of purchases are up to $5,000, the preferential treatment, the vendors in town would get a 5% break. So let me be clear, if the lowest bid was at this amount, as long as they're within 5% or more below, they would get the bid, or sorry, if they were 5% higher, so say the item was $5,000 and they bid $5,250 and someone else bid $5,000, they would still be considered the lowest bid because they're getting a 5% favorable factor. So you may just want to jot these down, like, so this is example, municipality A, 0 to 5,000, it's a 5% preferential treatment. You know, 5,001 to 15,000, it's a 3% favorable treatment. And above that, there's no favorable treatment. So at the end of the day, if council says, and under the free trade agreement, you need to know those limits. For goods or services, it's 75,000, so you can subsidize and provide local preferences up to 75,000. For construction services, it's up to 200,000. So another municipality, municipality B, for goods and services, they provide a 6% up to 10,000. And then between 10,000 and 50,000, they provide a 4%. And then 50,000 to 75,000, they provide a 2.5%. And similar on construction, it's the same percentages. So they treat goods and services same, well, except for construction where it goes up to 200,000. So the window is broader, but the percentages. So the whole point of this is the more of a favorable treatment you give to local vendors is going to be picked up in the tax rate. Because if we can acquire goods cheaper from a local vendor, taxpayers are paying for it. So right now, even though there's not a local preference policy, I would say we have, because of our local circumstances, are dealing with local businesses because there is no efficient or effective options. So there's certain businesses in town that they're the only suppliers and in town for that product. You know, we could go to Slave Lake, or we could go to McLennan, or we could go to Grand Prairie. That involves additional staff time and all that stuff if we're not there. But, you know, so for instance, if council says, well, on construction, we want a local preference up to 200,000, local businesses would still have, the bottom line is everyone still has to bid. It's not we're going to vendor supplier A in town and giving them the business. They have to bid, right? So if they bid and they meet these criteria, you know, what level of subsidization do you want to provide local business? You know, that's an open question.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think we should have a local preference. Yes, there is a little bit more money, but local companies provide an awful lot to the community too. They're supporting our other groups. They are providing employment for our residents. They, you know, sponsor the local hockey teams and everything else. So I'm fine with seeing a local preference. And if you brought it back with some what you thought was reasonable, I would be really happy with that. That's my thoughts.
And again, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying
Yeah, this is
there's a lot of
implications.
There's an implication on this side, and then there's the economic spin-offs on this side. How do you wanna balance it?
Trace?
So do you know if, do most communities have that? Like, or what would be the,
I would say, let's deal with the smaller communities, such as ourselves.
Yeah.
Most of them are doing it, and most of them don't have a policy that says they can do it, so they're violating
okay,
these trade agreements. And, but I haven't seen the trade agreement police around for a while, so. Most of the larger municipalities that are more sophisticated and have capacity, they all do it. And most of the larger ones, like the city, Edmonton, Calgary,
yeah,
I don't believe they have any local preferences. Because then you're talking about,
yeah,
well, most of their work is above 200,000, so
Right.
they can't give
no, exactly,
local preferences for
Yeah.
construction anyways.
Yeah.
Right, and anything under 200,000, they're probably doing in-house.
Sasha?
Yeah, no, so I'm fully in favor. Of my last municipality, we did do it unofficially, as Bill was saying, in a small town setting. You know, it's hard, in a larger city, it's easier to have anonymous vendors. Here, local businesses are aware that 52nd Street is being done, right? Because it's not a big city where you're in one end of the city, you may never go to the other end. So I think we absolutely must have it. Even if it wasn't spelled out as formally as that, though, I think that we should consider, you know, or I know that they have to go through a tender process, but maybe make them aware, because I think a lot of our guys are small towns, so they don't know that there's an official tender process, and then they feel left out of, they feel left out of the game, right? So just for us to all play nice, I think that might be beneficial. And your point is taken about the economics, but that 5% we recoup, as the mayor has cited, on, you know, local employment and other such things, but also taxation. Don't forget they give all of those things kind of go right back into the economic cycle. And a tangent to this is this hockey tournament that's going on this week. Yesterday, the sister of Star was in tears. I mean, you know, there was a lot of buzz around. It was day one of the opening tournaments, and I watched a couple of games, and a local business donated, you know, quite a bunch of stuff, and made the comment they must have had a relationship before he passed, and those kinds of things should be celebrated, right? I mean, I think that we should, in our communications policy or wherever it is, promote local businesses and their charitable, I don't know, as much as we can. Some may wish to remain anonymous, but I think when good things happen, it's kind of nice to speak of them. And I'd like this tournament to come in year after year, so the more we can say good things about it and make them feel welcome, the better chance of that happening is.
So just in terms of that informal stuff, that's all great, and, you know, whether it's the vehicles we're buying, we've approached the three local dealers in town saying, can you submit a bid? Two of them have. They may not get it, but, you know, we do make the businesses in town aware of any significant item going out. So that's happening, right? So.
The other thing, when I was looking through this that I didn't see in there is, I think we should, on some of those bigger ones, if we can, you know, where we post it, like in here, you had talked about, I forget what section, but making sure that it's in the provincial posting site. And I think,
ACP.
yeah, ACP. I think we should post it on our local website too, just to make sure that anybody local can find it.
Yeah.
If they, you know, they may not be looking on those other sites, and if we can create a link that goes, you know, click here for the tender on 52nd Street, they can go to ACP and see the tender and decide if they want to bid or not, just to make those businesses aware. Yeah, that would be another suggestion along with that local purchase policy. And I don't know, the other thing that we have informally asked of administration is to kind of spread the wealth also, so that, you know, you don't just go to, one place to get your supplies, like you don't just go to, Burger Baron when you're ordering something, you try to split it up between the various restaurants, or if you're getting, yeah, whatever, you spread it out where you can.
There goes Subway next time, I guess.
That's right, well, that's what I'm just saying, it's just, I don't know if that needs to be in the policy, or that can be kind of sort of our unwritten policy, but it is something that we've, ever since I've been on council, I've encouraged administration to do, but I don't know if that needs to be written, but it is something that I like to see, that we're not just using one vendor when there's multiple vendors in town.
And we were trying to do that, that would say you just deal with that outside the policy, but, you know, the gift cards, for instance, that staff get at Christmas, we are rotating that between the two major vendors in town. So last year was IGA, or sorry, 2 years ago was IGA, and this year it was, it's called sales. And the like, so yeah, that's staff are cognizant of that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Donna?
So I just have a couple questions. So have you, this policy is in relation to the credit cards that you've issued for, no, this is.
No, so this is outside of the credit card.
This is outside, okay.
So maybe it's a better context. One of the policies we have is the financial control policy.
Okay,
In there, there's 2 pages dealing with purchasing, but it's a bit light in terms of how we undertake these.
okay,
So this is basically everything laid out. If it's this dollar value, we do this process.
okay,
Here's the rules and regs. So like I'm saying, generally, I wouldn't include a lot of this stuff in here, but because of comments from ratepayers and interest of council members, in this case, I've gone overboard.
okay. So, and under the page 6 there where you listed up to this amount is done by town staff, 5,325, blah, 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 blah. So let's do the 5,000, like, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th one. Do those come to council for approval?
Yeah, more policies come to council.
No, the policy would come to council. The awarding of those bids would not come to council unless they are not within budget. So, for instance, it's our current practice, if, let's use the project, the backup power supply, that's budgeted at 400,000. If we go through the process and the bid comes in at 320, we would award the bid at 320 without bringing it back to council to award the bid, because it's within budget.
Okay, okay, so, and like, number, the 3rd one, request for quotation, so you're gonna get 3 quotes from somebody, depending, I'm gonna use the example of the lawnmower for that one. Cause it was
That one's 18,000.
18, but what happens if the bid comes under 15? So it falls into number 2, so that decision to purchase that specific good would be made by the recreation manager.
It would be made by the evaluation team reviewing the bid. So this also provides, if it's a bid in a tender, there must be an evaluation team. It won't be a individual.
Okay, so each one of these has an evaluation team,
No.
like from,
Depending, again, the details
right,
in the next sections.
okay,
But if it's a formal bid solicitation, and that could be a tender, request
Yeah,
for
yeah.
proposal, any of those, there would be an evaluation team of more than one individual.
Okay,
And then who would actually sign it at the end is off on the right-hand side. there.
yes,
Right, so in general practice, if it's under 15,000, generally the managers, I'm still insisting, even if it's in the $1,000 range, like that's basically any kind of town staff can go out and buy,
yeah,
go on and buy the toilet paper or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And as you move up, it becomes more formalized. So just like I'll use the HR, who hires staff. Well, some of the managers have been hiring staff without any participation from anyone else in the organization. That's not correct. So that, they've been told, we can't do that anymore. Some of them don't like it, tough. Same thing with this, if it's in this dollar range, you must have more than yourself evaluating it.
okay,
And these are the rules are set out of the process of evaluation. In the terms of a tender document, a tender, what is your scoring matrix? And the bidders have to know what that scoring matrix is before they submit their bids. So if we're doing an RFP, I think this policy says price will always be a consideration, but price cannot exceed, has to be minimum 10%, maximum 40%. So that matrix has to be in the bid documents so the vendors know where our area of focus is and how they're going to be scored and what criteria they're going to be scored on. So for instance, I'll give you one that me and Alan just did yesterday, which is the police interceptors. So there was three bids, 5 dealerships were solicited. Generally, there's always exceptions. So we could send it out and put it on ACP, but with those police interceptor vehicles, a lot of the dealerships don't have access to it because head office is already allocated out to these dealerships. They're the only ones getting, we're only producing 5,000 of these this year, and these dealerships are the only ones that can offer them. So, there's pros and cons of no matter what happens. So we picked 5 vendors that we know have access to, that can actually bid and deliver a unit. They all got the material specifications. The bids have come back in. Historically, what has happened is people would have went to the bottom line and said, well, this one's $2,000 cheaper, therefore we're awarding it to that. But in this case, the 2 vehicles have significantly different safety ratings. They have significant different gasoline ratings. If you're looking at full cost of buying something, those should be considered when you're evaluating those pieces of equipment. One vendor's bid is not compliant because there's 7 or 8 items we asked for that aren't included in the vehicle. So, you have to do apples to apples. So all I'm saying is, since I've been here, I've been trying to develop this. You can't be the only one making the decision when it involves, financial resources. And that doesn't matter if it's goods, services, or hiring staff. It's the same principles.
So just so I'm clear, you brought that this year today to get some feedback
Just
on,
information.
for information, and you got the idea that I think council would support a local, and you could build that in before you bring it back to council.
Correct.
And maybe, when you're talking about where to advertise, putting it on our local webpage and we're notifying some of the local, like you did with.
Yeah. So just, and again,
Tweak that a bit.
just so you can sort of understand what happens behind the scenes. This was given to the leadership team 2 weeks ago, so they've had 2 weeks to review it. And I'm asking them for input. I haven't got any input yet. So we'll be seeing if they have any input. And
come
And
to
if
council.
yes, we'll come back to council,
So you got our input for now.
right?
Yeah, okay. Is there anything else on this? I'm cognizant of the time, but nothing more. All right, so 5.2, policing.
Okay, so, we really have a severe crime slash policing slash something issue going on. I mean, and I was thinking of a town hall regarding policing to hopefully get people to stem their anger at the door, to come together for some constructive solutions. I was thinking you'd have council, Tarswell, and deputy commander, I don't know if Tarswell's still here, I honestly haven't seen him,
Yes.
so I don't know if he's still here. Citizens on patrol, to bring those people together, Constable Bloom, and see if we can find some constructive solutions. Because what's worrying me right now is there's gonna be some bitch-ass, kick-ass vigilante shit going down. Cause people are frustrated and they're angry. And we need to come together constructively to find a solution. Otherwise, there's gonna be an implosion of something going on. So my suggestion is to have a town hall meeting regarding policing with those agencies that I just mentioned, to see if people can come together and have a positive discussion and supply some strategic solutions to the problem, is my suggestion. And the sooner we do it, the better.
Okay. No, I would, from my perspective, I would agree with that. I think there's frustrations out there, and understanding what limitations are, like we said, what's the limitations of our peace officer? What's the-
Exactly.
Who can do what? There's, the frustrations with the catch and release, where these people get caught for doing something and they're back out on the street the next day. That kind of frustration isn't really anything that we can do, but to have a discussion about it and say, hey, what solutions can we do? Then it can be talked about. I think it's a good idea. That's,
And I mean, as Bill said, there's limitations to what our constable, peace officer can do and is allowed to do, safety-wise. And with Tarswell or his deputy sergeant or whatever, I mean, maybe they're under limitations too, like maybe they're, of a complement of 28 or 30 officers that we're supposed to have here, we only have 18. I don't know that, but we need to get that message out to the people and I think a lot of people don't, as when Warren was here saying, if something happens, like phone in, make a complaint or whatever, because people are like, well, I'm not gonna bother phoning in because nothing's gonna be done about it, but that at least gives them material saying, like, we have these issues here. So the sooner we can try and pull something together to get people together as a community to come up with solutions, I think is paramount right at this point right now.
okay, yeah, no, I would, I don't know, other thoughts?
I agree, but, it has to be headed by the RCMP who's can directly do something about it. I think we need to clarify, like with Alan and our folks, right? It's very important. I very much truly believe that because they get beaten up horribly on social media just for the sake that, the people just don't understand, they don't realize, which is understandable, right? They see him as a police and he should be running around and busting everybody at 3 a.m. all by himself. So it's, I mean, I can see that, it's, so there has to be that out there for sure, absolutely, and so people understand that. But then you'll have to have the RCMP as the crime because, and if they're not prepared to talk, or participate, which I'm sure they would be, then that'll be key, I guess is all I was gonna say, because, I mean, we can stand there and listen to people talking, but we have no control of that either, right? But I think it's a great idea, absolutely. I think it's a must right now, because it just showed the other night of what was going on there, which is great too, because citizens on patrol, that's all good. I think it's a combination of things that we have to say, that the town brings across, not town, but I mean, our community brings it across and says, you're not gonna be doing that here, right? So I think it's a combination of things, absolutely, but, as the season gets warmer, it seems like that always wraps up, right?
Okay, we lost our CAO, so we're officially right now not hidden. But I don't know, did you have any thoughts?
I fully agree, and for many reasons, I agree that we need to come together. Format, date are what I'm waiting for, but yeah, I think all the stakeholders, as Donna said, should be part of the discussion and the engagement, and yeah, let's do it sooner rather than later. Even this coming week, when we don't have a council meeting I guess you want to bring to council meeting, okay?
Well, and I think, there's times, the key player in this would be the RCMP for sure. I mean, this isn't necessarily something that the town controls or owns.
We're just the conduit, we're the facilitator of.
Yeah, and we can suggest to get started. That's what we're doing, is we're
And
facilitating.
And I do believe, I'm not sure if any of you have been to I know we had an update from Citizens on Patrol. I do believe they have an RCMP liaison. I don't know if it's,
I heard that too.
so there is, so they are integrated, those two. So it would be great to have all of them together.
And I mean, I know it's hard to get people together and.
No, it's not. We just have to make it happen, Donna.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, like, I mean, like, if we decide, okay, we're gonna have this meeting here, get a hold of these people immediately, if Tarswell says he can't be there, then, okay, send somebody else. You need to be present at this. We need to be assertive with them saying, and like, if Tarswell says, well, no, I can't be there, or whatever, then we need to be assertive enough to say, well, we're having it on this day. You need to have an RCMP representative there, because if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, their big mandate, one of the big priorities is community policing, and this is one of their, I mean, this isn't out of their wheelhouse, this is what they do, so there's no excuse. I mean, it's 24 hours, right? So we're not gonna make it at some unreasonable time. It'll likely be 7 p.m. on an evening, and yeah, there's no reason why not. This is part of their mandate.
All right, so what we're saying is a motion coming out of this is that the committee of the whole recommends to council that we help facilitate a meeting to deal with, instead of policing, maybe crime in the community, right? That's what we really want to address. Because we don't control policing per se, right? But, to address crime.
True, we don't control that, but I mean, it's
And that's, policing is one solution.
It's a policing issue in the sense that they would be the ones that would be catching in or charging these people. So my suggestion would be to say that we're having a town hall to address crime, or like to address criminal behavior and policing in the community.
Sure.
Because we know we know that people are gonna come out and they're gonna be all armed and upset about the police, like you're not doing enough. So I reiterate, we have to control the, the focus of that meeting. Yes, we understand you're angry, but we need you to check that anger at the door and come up with
Solutions. Yeah.
constructive solutions to the problem. And then we have the police say, okay, well, like, we're not a 24-hour department, we are supposed to have, whatever, but we need those core groups of people to be there to address the issue.
Okay, so we got the motion. I think we're all in agreement, all in favor? Carried. Moving on then to our draft 5-year capital plan. And I'll turn that over to Bill to,
We'll make it quick. It's just there for information. The commitment is every committee of the whole meeting, you'll see a different version of it. I wouldn't suggest we get into any of the individual project details now, but again, this is the way to council have a heads up, at least looking out at for, 225, 226. Is there any informational needs on these projects? Is there issues with sequencing? Those bigger issues would help inform staff when we bring back the next iteration of the 5-year plan. But it will be a constant sort of updating related to the plan. It's not that, there's a lot of detail there right now. This isn't necessarily the way the budget will be presented, but we need to put greater attention in, and this is just a mechanism of getting feedback on the progress from council.
okay, any thoughts on this plan at this point and what we're looking at?
No, just that I like it.
I'll make a comment is, I like this compared to what, before, what we got was the plan, the capital plan was basically the capital plan for public works. So I like the fact that this is incorporating the other departments into the equation so that there won't be any, like before it was department by department capital plans. This sort of puts it all into one, so you see all of the pieces together, which I think is good. And the other thing that would be, good is to see sort of I didn't see in this particular draft, unless I missed it, sort of a total per year of what the ask is, right? Like to say, okay, all of these, when we add up the capital budget plan for 2025, what is the total ask? I can see totals for vehicles, I see totals for the gas department, the fire department, all of them, but I don't see a grand total. That was the only thing that I would like to see.
It's there, but it's buried.
Oh, okay.
So the first two pages, and I could stand corrected.
Oh,
Both have,
okay.
right, so there is some code there. So the next version, what you'll see is we'll delineate that in terms of the totals, but will also be included the available funding sources by year. To give an indication of what the capital deficit in funding is per year. So we have, that isn't indicated here's the task, the demand for each of the years, here's the coming availability for each of the years. And the first one that would be on the next version is this, what's the relatively ranking, like mandatory, high priority?
Yeah.
Some ranking to each of the items.
And some of that's gonna come on the year of that, you know, during that time, because it might change over time, but yeah. Okay, is there anything else people want to add to this, or, so we'll give CO feedback before he brings it back? All right, so we'll cover that. There's notice of upcoming meetings? Any upcoming meetings that we need to know about you got on here?
Again, I don't have the dates, but I know the ICF meeting is been rescheduled. I believe the date is May 3rd. Let's see if I got it here.
I should have that in. Yeah, May 3rd.
So that's the big one that was driving this capital one. So we'll be having discussions about that. Maybe if I could, just a quick update. I did go to the county last Wednesday, myself and financial coordinator, and presented the approved 2024 capital plan to the county. There was not a lot of questions. There was basically two of their council members asking questions, why is this in, what, anyways, Jim Soblock, Nick, and Ann Stewart, they were not necessarily enamored with the process, but that's something for the joint ICF committee. But there seemed to be general consensus that, just give them the money and let them apply what projects it will be funded for, but there's still some members of their council saying, no, we want to be prescriptive and say, you must spend it on this, 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 and this. So that's where it stands. I haven't got any feedback from the CEO of the county of what their decision was, because for whatever reason they had it so close camera item.
Okay, anything else before we wrap up? Are we still being recorded?
I think we are.
Okay. Well, with that, I will call the meeting as adjourned. Just